In the language of the North, Lakay isn't just a word, it's an institution. It's a title earned by the man who stays when everyone else runs. In 1992, at the peak of his cinematic power, Fernando Poe Jr. didn't just want to play a character, he wanted to embody a living legend. This is the story of how a real-life colonel's service became the king's most enduring testament to the law. Part 1.1, The Genesis, a direct order from the legend. The production of Lakay began with a rare occurrence in Philippine cinema, a real-life hero hand-picking his cinematic avatar. The Pact. P/Colonel Juanito Lagasca, a man known for dismantling the most ruthless syndicates in northern Luzon, refused to let anyone but FPJ tell his story. He saw in the king the same stoicism, discipline, and masa, or people's heart, that he tried to maintain in the force. GP Films and the Vision. Directed by Nilo Sais, the mission was clear: create an action film that felt like a documentary. They moved away from the superhero tropes of the 80s and leaned into the gritty, dusty reality of early 1990s provincial law enforcement. Part 1.2, the Act 1, the Silent Sentinel, the narrative build-up. The arrival of the law. The film sets the stage in a town where the line between the criminals and the authorities has blurred. Lakay, or FPJ, arrives not as a conqueror, but as a silent observer. The narrative core. The story focuses on Lakay's first major challenge, the rise of Leonardo de Huawei de los Reyes, or Efren Reyes Jr. The antagonist. Huawei is depicted as a force of nature, unpredictable and cruel. He represents the chaos that thrives when the law is weak. The family anchor. A significant portion of Part 1 focuses on the domestic life of Lakay. The presence of Charo Santos as his wife provides the emotional stake. We see the hero not just as a shooter, but as a husband who has to leave his family every morning, knowing he might not return. The turning point. The first half of the film culminates in a failed raid. For the first time, the audience sees a vulnerability in the FPJ character. It isn't a failure of courage, but a failure of the system. This sets the stage for Lakay to realize that to catch a ghost like Huawei, he must stop acting like a bureaucrat and start acting like a hunter. Part 1.3, The Visual Aesthetic, the Grit of 1992. Cinematographer Ver Reyes and director Nilo Sais made specific choices to differentiate Lakay from other action films. Practicality over flash. There are no Matrix-style movements. The gunfights are fast, loud, and messy. The palette of the North. The film uses the natural, sun-bleached colors of the Ilocos region. The dust on the hero's boots and the sweat on his brow are real, adding to the true-to-life promise. The sound of silence. One of the film's most powerful tools is the lack of music during high-tension scenes. The only thing the audience hears is the cocking of a hammer and the rustle of leaves. Part 1.4, Socio-Political Resonance. In 1992, the Philippines was transitioning into a new era of democracy. The Philippine National Police was a young organization trying to find its soul. The model citizen. Lakay became the ideal image of a policeman. He was the counter-narrative to the corrupt cop trope that was prevalent in the news at the time. The Lakay philosophy. The movie popularized the idea that a leader leads from the front. When FPJ's character puts himself in the line of fire to save a junior officer, it resonated with a public hungry for genuine leadership. Scene 2, The Rising Fever. Visual, a montage of Huawei's men burning a village, followed by a shot of Lakay standing in the ashes, his jaw tight. He picks up a spent shell casing and looks directly into the camera. Narrator.
The peace is broken. The criminals have crossed the line. The law has been mocked. But in the world of Juanito Lagasca, the last word doesn't belong to the man who fires first. It belongs to the man who fires last. In Part 2, we go inside the hunt, the record-shattering box office, and the trophies that turned this movie into a masterpiece.
The screen is split. On one side, we see the real-life P/Cole Juanito Lagasca in a vintage photograph. On the other, FPJ in character, looking into a mirror and adjusting his officer's cap. The sounds of a distant siren and the cocking of a .45 caliber pistol overlap. Narrator VO. When a man's life is written in the service of others, the final chapter is usually the loudest. For Juanito Lagasca, that chapter was the hunt for Wawai. For Fernando Poe Jr., it was the movie that proved he could play a real-world hero without losing his legendary spark. Now, the hunt begins, and the box office records are about to fall. Part 2.1. The narrative climax, the destruction of Wawai. The chess match of violence. The second half of Lakay shifts from a police procedural into a high-stakes manhunt. The antagonist, Wawai, Efren Reyes Jr., has become a cornered animal, unpredictable and twice as dangerous. The execution. The intelligence trap. Rather than a blind charge, Lakay uses his connections with the masa to lure Wawai into the open. It highlights the real-life Lagasca's brilliance in community-based policing. The warehouse finale. The final shootout is a masterclass in 90s action choreography. There are no invincible shields. Lakay takes cover, reloads under pressure, and manages his team with military precision. The moral choice. In the final moments, the film offers a choice. Does Lakay execute the criminal or uphold the law? The choice made on screen defined the character's legacy. He kills only when the law has no other option, making the bala, the bullet, the final unfortunate necessity. Part 2.2. Ratings and critical reception. The true-to-life gold standard. The critics score 4.7 out of 5. Critics from the 90s heralded Lakay as a triumph of subtlety. In an era where action movies were often loud and nonsensical, Lakay was quiet and heavy. Performance. Cesar Montano and Efren Reyes Jr. were cited for bringing a level of acting grit that matched FPJ's stoicism. Directorial pacing. Nilo Saez was praised for not rushing the plot. He allowed the emotional weight of the hero's family life with Charo Santos to breathe, making the final action scenes feel more earned. The audience masa rating, 10 out of 10. The general public's response was immediate. The film wasn't just good, it was theirs. Authenticity. Ilocano viewers specifically praised the film for its respectful and accurate portrayal of Northern culture and the term Lakay. Relatability. The rating was driven by the feeling that for once, a good cop was being celebrated at the highest level of cinema. Part 2.3. Box office earnings. The King's Ransom. While modern box office numbers are inflated by ticket prices, the 1992 earnings of Lakay were legendary for their sheer volume of tickets sold. Narrator. Earnings aren't just about the money in the till. They are about the trust the people put in the name on the poster. In 1992, that trust was worth its weight in gold. Part 2.4. Awards and industry accolades. The awards season of 1993 saw Lakay standing tall among the art films and dramas of the year, proving action had a place at the table. FAMAS Awards. Best Actor, Recognition. FPJ's portrayal of a real-life Cole added a new trophy-worthy layer to his Hall of Fame career. Best Supporting Actor, Efren Reyes Jr. His performance as Wawai is still considered one of the greatest villainous turns in the history of the genre. FAP, Film Academy of the Philippines. The film was a finalist for Best Cinematography and Best Sound, highlighting the technical superiority of the production. PMPC Star Awards. It won honors for musical score and original theme, with the soundtrack becoming as iconic as the film itself. Part 2.5, The Eternal Legacy. Why does Lakay still hold the crown? The Lagaska Standard. It set the bar for how police biopics should be made, with respect, realism, and heart. The King's Evolution. It showed that FPJ didn't need to be a fictional Pandai to be a hero. He could be a man in a simple khaki uniform and still command the world's attention. Scene 2. Fade to History. Visual. A final shot of the real Cole Juanito Lagaska aging gracefully, shaking hands with FPJ on the movie set. The screen fades to white. Narrator. The credits may roll and the theater may empty, but the legend of the Lakay remains. A true hero lives in his deeds. A king lives in his stories. Long live the memory of Juanito Lagaska. Long live the king of Philippine movies. Text on screen. The law never dies. Fade to black. Key data recap. Starring Fernando Poe Jr., Charo Santos, Efren Reyes Jr. Total gross, plus 45 million pesos. Estimated lifetime theatrical. Awards, multiple FAMAS and FAP nominations and wins. Key theme, the high price of integrity.